So this morning, we're in Advent season, but also I have a monthly schedule that I've worked out with Matt, Pastor Matt. And Matt, this is Matt's Sunday, so I hope you don't mind. Is that okay with you? Matt has served on staff. He's done so much. And Jocelyn as well. They pretty much have handled that youth group on Wednesday nights by themselves, and they've done so much ministry here in this community, and they're great people, and I just am so thrilled to have them as part of my life. So would you welcome today Matt and Jocelyn, please?
Good morning, good morning. I already been introduced, but I do see a few new faces. So my name is Matthew Willis. I do the youth ministries here. Jocelyn, come up here. I do the youth ministries here at North County, and so the second week of every month, I've been doing the Sunday service. But this month, my beautiful wife is going to be doing the main part of the service this morning. But I wanted to just share real quick. I want to thank everyone that participated last night, was volunteering, that was here for Vine Street, and not just those people, but the people that came the week before and decorated the church. You guys did an amazing job. But anyways, you guys did an amazing job, and I get to hear all the chatter as the people are walking by. Some of it's good, some of it's raunchy. But I did hear, people talk about how beautiful the church looked and how great, the production that was done outside. And I think that we have, like on Vine Street is such an important opportunity for our church to be the church outside of these walls. And I think that's super important. And so many people get to see what's happening here. And I know that God is in that moment and that God is moving. And it's just awesome and a blessing to be a part of that. And it was a wonderful night. My wife's going to be sharing a little bit this morning. So I'm going to turn it over to my beautiful wife, Jocelyn.
We have a lot of kids that want to go to camp too. A lot of their names on a paper. Not a lot that have actually turned in a deposit, but we had an awesome thing happen. My son finally invited his friends, and then they invited friends, and then his girlfriend came, and then she invited her friends. And one week we had like 20 new kids at the youth group, and they keep coming back. It's a problem. It's a good problem to have, to try to figure out if they can all get to camp, how do we get them there, And so part of that was like, do we rent a bus? And that was, Sandy knows, she looked into it. It was really expensive. So, but God will provide. And so we don't want to ever leave a kid behind. Even, there's kids that show up and they just want to go to camp and then they never again come to youth group. I don't care. I want you to go to camp because people get saved at camp. And if that's their opportunity to hear about Jesus and maybe accept it, then it's worth it. Thank you so much for supporting the kids that, hard teenagers that, we want them to go to camp. I just wanted to give you guys an update today. A lot of you, came and supported my fundraiser last year for a new dance studio. And I just want to let you know that it is a miracle. It is a beautiful miracle that I get to live every day to go to that studio. It's big, it's open, there's, you pull in and you park. And if you didn't go to my old studio, you don't know how amazing that is because it was like the parking was small, but also like dangerous, like people backing up and kids running and there's next to a liquor store and it was just, people just smoking in front of the dance studio and to be able to pull in and there's just always parking spots. It's just wide open parking and everybody that has, come from the old place to the new place is just like, yay, parking. But we've also had an influx of students. I was praying that God would fill our classes because we We built enough space to have 3 studios, where before I had 2 dance studios inside. And so I just like needed the kids to fill these studios. And I figured normally you get young kids coming in. And we do have like the preschool age coming in and filling those classes. But what was a miracle is the older kids that came. That doesn't happen. Like, you don't get, 15-year-old kids that join. And we have a ton. Like, my teen and senior companies that go to competition, last year we had 5, and this year we have 14. I know. It's just, I'm living a miracle every day, and I just want to thank everybody that helped us get there to build out that studio. It is a blessing to me and to many people that are coming there and enjoying watching their child inside the studio and not having to sit outside in the cold right now. We have a huge open lobby with viewing windows into the studio. It's just, it feels like a real dance studio, where I know the other one was real, but this is like real. It's legit. If you haven't seen it, come check it out. We're next to Verizon at the Home Depot Shopping Center. God Squad, we're still the home of God Squad Dance Crew. That was, when I first was offered to buy the dance studio 10 years ago, I said no, because I just started doing God Squad, and I knew that's something that God wanted me to do, and I was worried that I wouldn't have time to keep committing to God Squad. And it's a constant struggle to balance that. But right now we have 14 members in God Squad, and we have 9 juniors. And if you guys saw it last night, I mean, they're great. They're really good, and it's just, it's a blessing to me all the time to see kids come in, teenagers, public school teenagers, just normal, worldly, and they just, I want to be a part of God Squad. Like, this is an opportunity for them to know about Jesus, and they're into it. They want to know, and we do Bible studies, and we pray together, and it's just, I'm amazed, and I'm amazed at them, and because I wasn't doing that when I was a teenager, and so I just tell them constantly how blessed I am that they are part of it, and how encouraged I am by them and the community as well, and for them to be up there dancing last night. It was a great night. It was an awesome production. We had, lights, and it was very professional looking, and which I always believe that we have to do our best for God. And so it took me a long time to get there, because I grew up so poor. Like, it was like, no, like, save the paper towel. We can reuse that later. And God taught me through, one of the Old Testament books, when I think it's Solomon talking about how many, jewels were used in the tabernacle and how many feet, and he just goes on and on about these details of building the tabernacle and how many pounds of like silver and gold were brought in from other whatever, and cedar from Lebanon or whatever. It was like, I'm bad at details, but you know what I'm talking about. There's that book in the Bible, and it just goes on, and it's kind of boring. And I was like, God, what are you showing me through this? And he's like, the details matter, and it's important to put your best out there for God, because we're not showing off like the packaging. Do you know what I mean? Like, the packaging's important, to be like, this is important, to show the world that it's not just some little whatever. It's worth your attention, and it's okay to spend money on it, because what's money? God said, I own all the cattle on the hills. And it makes me cry, because, again, growing up so poor, like, money was, it was like, you could never do that because you don't have enough money. Why even think about doing that? And I remember when we started coming to church here, and I was like, I want to be a missionary that like travels, and they said, God won't send you to Africa unless you want to go. And I was like, I want to go to Africa. And I was thinking, I could never go to Africa. That's so much money. How would you ever get to Africa? So some of you know that we did. God's a miracle maker, and he's the dream giver. And I'm totally off topic, but when you give what you have to God, it's way better than what you could have done with it. Start with your life and then give the other things. It's such a blessing to be doing what I love to do. I grew up dancing. My poor dad would do the plumbing or make the sets just to afford for me to keep dancing. And then I met this cute boy that brought me to church here, and I found out about God and fell in love with God too, and thought, how does this go together? And so I started doing dances that were about God, and that's how God Squad came about. And now it's this amazing thing that all these kids are involved in, and such a blessing. And I tell you that because whatever you have, God can use that too. And that's kind of what this is about. Oh man, it's not waterproof, guys. Okay, pull it together, Jocelyn. Thank you. It was a constant balancing act when I took over the dance studio, and that was a miracle too. Just in buying that, I didn't have much money, and the amount of money we had in savings was the amount that the lady wanted for the studio. So I was like, okay, God, that must be what I need to do. But I didn't want to do it because I wanted to make sure that I don't run out of time to give to God Squad, because I know that that's what God called me to do. And that's like tithing. And so in the Bible, God asked for our first fruits and the fruits of our labor. And so back then they were like farmers, and they had typically, they would give their grapes, or it was give your first wheat, or the best cow you have, your olives, your oil. But a lot of us aren't farmers, or maybe you are, but that's I'm not. And so what is my labor and what is my fruit? And that's I teach dance, and so I mess up often. I get so wrapped up in our dance studio goes to competitions, and that it's secular thing that you do. It's like football. Football you play, and any sport you do, you go to tournaments and you see how you're doing. And so we go to competitions, and I get wrapped up in these dances that I'm making for this competition, and I really want it to be great, and I spend all my time and energy and creative thoughts on that, and I gotta sit back and go, the first creative thoughts, my first fruits and even my choreography should be going to God. And so I have to set out time to make sure that I'm taking all those thoughts and energy and putting into finding the same thing that I would do for a competition dance, but even better because it has a purpose and a passion behind it and a bigger reach than just going to a competition, right? So I put a lot of value on making those dances for God Squad, and sometimes I get really sidetracked and I fail. But the cool thing is that God uses our failures. When you mess up, and you will, you got to give it to God. He takes my failures and he turns them into miracles. And so it's not if you're going to fail, when you fail, what you do with that. In that moment of guilt and shame, how you recover from that is what builds your character in the likeness of God. Those are the important moments. God uses messed up people all the time. Good news for us, right? Look at Jacob. If you don't know, he stole the birthright. He wrestled with God, and this is the guy that God renamed Israel and made his whole nation after Jacob, the deceiver. It gives hope for us, right? David, man, after God's own heart, that had a real woman issue. He was an adulterer, and he sent that guy to die on the front lines. God used him. And even through that, it wasn't oh, now you did that, well, I can't use you anymore. It's that was in the story, in his turning that into glory, like still using this messed up guy and being like, but you can still be used for God's glory. You can wrestle with God and steal the birthright, but God's still going to use you if you seek God in that. And I've learned so much. God taught me that a humble apology is a really brave thing. It's an honorable thing. And in those moments of guilt and shame, when you don't even want to admit that you were wrong, to give a humble apology, like, I'm so sorry I did that. And a lot of times I have to give that to God, I'm so sorry. I didn't prioritize you, and I'm prioritizing all these other things. You guys, and it's not like once a year. It's like weekly, daily. Oh, shoot, God, I messed up again. But, we're never expected to be perfect, and I want you to know that you're never expected to be perfect. We want to be the strive is to be Christ-like, but it's a strive, it's a progress, not perfection. And so it's okay to mess up as long as there's progression behind it. And yeah, you're going to backstep and make the same mistake again, but like God said, David was a man after his own heart. What does that mean? Like, he knows our hearts. Where's your heart at? If you're really wanting to do everything for God and for his glory, and I really want to do the best I can, God, for you, he knows that. And so even in your mess ups, and you turn around and give it back to God, and all right, and we're doing great. And it's crazy how quickly God will restore what you're doing and restore the fruits of my labor and use me in those moments when I'm like, I'm so sorry, God. And like the next day, we're just like the Israelites all the time, 40 years in the wilderness, and they got to see God in a cloud above them, in a pillar of fire, like he was there. Moses was talking to God. The Israelites were like, we're going to worship this calf. Like they messed up all the time, and you're like, how'd they do that? Well, look at us. Like every day we're like, this is more important. Oh, shoot. Sorry, God, I forgot. You're more important. Every day we have to redo it, but it's okay, guys. We're all doing it together. It's not perfection. It's progress. So God turns our mistakes into miracles, and he does it all the time. He did it like me met Matt in class. It was a class that was court-ordered to attend 3 times a week as an outpatient recovery for addicts. We had both been arrested for drug charges and should have been sent to jail, but they had just started this thing called Prop 36, where instead of going to jail, drug offenders went through this rigorous course, outpatient rehab course. And look at us, right? Like, yeah. I met Matt. He sat across from me in our little circle, and we had to share why we were like, in this, why are you addicted? What's your problems? And I knew all the bad stuff about him, and he knew all the bad about me before we even had our first date. So that was kind of nice. But guys, people looked at, I was 21 years old, getting sober instead of like the opposite. People turn 21 and start going to the bars. I was like, I won't go anymore. I think I'll hang out with Matt. But I was like, because I was an addict, I was like lying and manipulating people to get money, to buy drugs, to steal drugs, like to sell, like all these bad things that like you just like memories will pop up. I'm like, oh, and you just feel icky about the things. And Matt like is looking at me in our little group like flashing his pretty blues, and I was like, stop it. Like, and everybody looking at me thinking, why is this young girl dating this guy that has 4 kids from 4 different women that's been to prison? Like they're looking at me thinking, what are you doing? And I'm thinking, what is he doing with, like, what does he see good in me? And you guys, like, you've seen his heart up here. He's that way all the time. He is genuine. Like, and I live with him. He is a good man all the time. He can't lie, which is, and he's loyal to a fault. Like, there's not a more genuine person that I've ever met. I'm the lucky one. God took both of our mistakes and made a miracle. Like, and if he can do that with our lives, and with Jacob's life, and David's life, and all those other messed up people in the Bible, like, that's what God does always. He always uses messed up people. There's not, Jesus is the only person that's not messed up, but he is God, so he doesn't count. He wants to use you and your messed up stuff because then he gets to show the world how amazing he is in his glory by using such messed up people. And being like, look what I did. And we go, look what God did. Let him use you. And I hope that this has brought you to a place where, number one, you were thinking of, what is my fruit? What is my fruit of my labor? Maybe, like, some people are organized. And I'm telling you right now, that is a gift. I am not. And I need people that are organized in my life to help me with the things I do. Making calendars, reconciling bank accounts. Like, that's so dumb. No, just kidding. It's amazing that people are like, have that brain. Hospitality, like there's things that I don't even know, but you know what you're good at. You know what you're good at. And I promise you that if you take that silly thing and you feel like, well, I'm just a dance teacher, that's how I felt. What does that have? How do you even use that? You take whatever it is, like, I'm good at vacuuming, and God's going to be like, here, this is what you can do with it, and it will be glorious, and you will bless people, and he will bless you, but will also have this life that you're living that is fulfilled and joyful, and I want everybody to have that, because that's what God gives when you're living in his purpose. Life, and that abundantly, is what he promised, and so take it. Go to him and take it, and I hope that you also think of your first fruits, giving it to him, but also your mistakes. Don't forget to give him your mistakes, especially when you feel like you failed and you want to hide under a rock. Get on your knees, because that's where you're being all shameful, and give it to God. And he will show you how to he will redeem you in a way that is glorious and turn that mistake into this beautiful, humble, powerful thing. Thank you all for listening. Please buy barbecue tickets from Matt. Is there a question?
I've always wanted a church of just real people. People that bring their stuff and kind of are willing to let it out, willing to share it. The intimacy, you just had a few moments of intimacy here. A colloquial way of interpreting intimacy is into me, see. Intimacy, into me, see. Which is the way that God works. We spend so much time hiding and trying to be something that we're not. And God is asking us to be real. Because it's when you're real that I shine the brightest. And Jocelyn, God shined through you. God shined through you. God shines through Matt.